Hello, and welcome to our new episode of Kirk Chats. I am Reverend Jasmine Smart, and I have a wonderful guest with me today, Sandra Karam. We are going to be talking about faith, life, and our changing world. And I'm so excited to get to have this conversation and to invite you to listen in. So, Sandra and I know each other from Presbytery work. She is a member of First Presbyterian Birmingham, and probably for the last, I want to say 3 years, because I'm about to re-up my term. So 3 years, we've been on committee on ministry together, and she has been such a great leader for our team and put in lots and lots of hours and time and energy. So thank you so much for all that you've done for that. So, and welcome to this
Well,
conversation.
thank you, Jasmine. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. And so one reason why we thought we would have you on today is you have just moved to Fox Run like a few weeks ago, months ago. So tell me how that's gone for you.
The end of September, we moved to Fox Run, and it was traumatic. We lived in a very large condo in Bloomfield Hills and had to downsize for the two-bedroom apartment we're in, and we're still struggling. Now, we did take off at the beginning of November to spend the month here down in Florida. So it's been a nice break. But when we go back next week, it's, still unpacking boxes. But it's a great place to be. We're both very happy to be at Fox Run.
Good. I'm so glad. But that is a big transition for you. And actually, we were thinking, so every episode in this series, I've been asking people to bring an object that's important to them. And one reason why is exactly what you've just gone through, is knowing that when you move to Fox Run, a lot of times you have to downsize. So thinking about what is one of those faith objects that is very important to you. Because you're down in Florida right now, you do not have it physically able to show the camera. But can you tell us what item comes to mind for you?
I'll tell you the first thing that comes to mind is my Bible. Now, normally I do carry it with me, but because I have the Bible on my phone, I said, well, I really won't need to bring it down to Florida. So, because I've been using it from my phone. The other thing is in my desk drawer at Fox Run, and it is something I could have given away, but when I was a child, I received lovely pair of rosary beads. I grew up as a Catholic. And when I found them, when we were downsizing, I said, oh, I was so happy to find them again. And so I'm keeping them very close. I do not have them with me down here, but they are in my desk drawer at Fox Run.
How old do you think you were when you received those?
I probably got them at my first communion, and so I was 5 years old. Do I have to tell you how long ago that was?
No, no worries.
It was over 70 years ago, so yes.
I'm so glad you found them too. I mean, that's really precious to think about. Were they a gift from, so do you remember who they were from, or was that just kind of the common gift that everyone would get?
I think it was a common gift, but I imagine they came from my parents on my first communion. Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about kind of how you've made that transition from Catholic to now Presbyterian, and if there were other things in between?
Yes, and there were other things in between. So I grew up as a Catholic, and a very devoted Catholic. My father was very religious. He was taught by Jesuits in Ottawa, Canada. That's where I grew up. And he never, ever missed a church service, mass. And in fact, during Lent, we went every day to church. And so he is really the basis of my religious understanding. And I was I will say I was as devout as he was.
Hmm.
So, but then I married outside the church, and the church would not, at that time, excommunicated me for marrying outside the church. I don't think they do that anymore, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I married into an American Baptist family. And so started going to the Baptist church and spent 22 years there and was very, very happy with the church. This is where the Bible came in. When we moved to Michigan, we had Bible study at the American Baptist Church, and it was like a new world opening up to me. It was so exciting. You know, as Catholics, that was the other thing we didn't do way back then. I think they do it now, but back then there was no really Bible study except listening to the gospel every Mass. And so this world of the Bible was very emotional for me.
Hmm.
And as I said, opened up a whole new world. I became very active in the American Baptist churches, as you can imagine, knowing me. And eventually, I actually became president of the American Baptist Churches of Michigan. In the American Baptist churches, we have church moderators, the lay moderators. The pastor is not the moderator. And so, you know, I became moderator of my church and then went on to become a moderator of the American Baptist Churches of Michigan. And then there was an issue with the church that I attended in Dearborn. And I had to make a stand about it, and I did. And then I went to the Presbyterian Church in Dearborn. We had a fabulous pastor there too, Bill Steele.
Which one
And
was this? Was this Littlefield or Cherry Hill?
neither.
Neither.
The first.
Oh, First Pres or Dearborn. Okay.
First Pres Dearborn. And so I became active there. And as the years went on, I eventually moved up to West Bloomfield. And of course, it wasn't feasible to keep going, you know, down to Dearborn. Actually, I moved at about the same time that Bill Steele left the church. And so I said, well, now it's time to find another church. And I did visit several churches in the area, including the Kirk, but I ended up at First Presbyterian, where again, I was asked right away to get involved. I said, you know, I went through too much, and I was still working full time at Ford Motor Company, and traveling. So I said, I need a little break for a few years. And Ron Byers, bless him, another wonderful preacher, said, okay. And he didn't bother me for a few years. And then I was invited again to get involved. So I did at that time. By that time, I was nearing retirement from Ford. And so I had more time on my hands. Yeah.
That's great. Part of me kind of wonders, because you were so heavily involved early on, did it ever cross your mind to go into ministry or you know?
Well, I was educated in Catholic schools by nuns. Mm-hmm. In high school, it was all nuns. And of course, you know, I think part of their shtick is to encourage young women to go into the convent. And I did consider it. But not for long.
You're like, I love other things too much.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
it's a lot of sacrifice to be a nun. For sure.
That's true. And I had a couple of friends who went in and eventually left, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's so beautiful. I love that. Because that, you know, if you watched the episode a couple weeks ago that I talked with my grandma, she was married to a Catholic. So my upbringing, I came in as like a Bible believing Christian, and like, why didn't he read the Bible every day?
Yes.
was my view. And
Right.
but I like having, it almost feels to me like Presbyterians, like, and we make our faith what we want it to be in some ways, but you know, that the church provides us both that Bible centric, like, you know, to have that personal relationship with the Bible sounds weird, but like a devotional appreciation for it in a really personal way. And but also have that tradition and that liturgy that is so meaningful as well. And I think you're right. I think some Catholic churches now do try and do more Bible study and more, you know, we've kind of learned from each other over time and try and, yeah, borrow the best of both worlds, I guess.
My sister is, of course, still Catholic, and she has attended actually seminary and Bible classes, and she's very well versed in the Bible. You know, we'll talk about something sometimes. She said, "Oh yes, that's in whatever," and I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with what she's learned. So I know it's changed.
Did you have any services in Latin when you were really young?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and I was in the choir, and we sang mostly in Latin. So yeah, it was Latin.
That's great. I took Latin in middle school, high school, but it's, you know, you don't use that every day, so it's not really there. But yeah, some of those in the Spanish countries, I recognize that word. That's close enough. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think the journey that you have, and we should tell people too, that you at First Birmingham now are serving as clerk of session. How long have you been doing that for them?
John Judson has been with us about 12 years, I think. And I think I've been doing it 11 years then.
Yeah. Well,
he asked me to re-up for next year. So
did you say yes?
Oh yeah, I did.
Are you thinking about it? Okay.
No, I'm not thinking about it. That is one job I do enjoy. Yeah, I do enjoy that.
And once you've done it for that long, I mean, you kind of get in a good rhythm of it. And
exactly.
Yeah, I think with session leadership, sometimes it feels like there's periods where it takes a lot out of you. Like you all are about to go through a pastoral transition in a while, like you have some time before that comes to you, but John has announced his retirement. And so, you know, those periods of transition, I'm sure, are just like you as elders put in more energy, more work because this is your church and you want to keep the ship in the right direction, right?
Absolutely. I'm very pleased with how John is doing the transition. So he's going to stay there while we search for a pastor, and hopefully we'll have someone chosen who can overlap with him for a month or two or whatever. That's our hope. So that we won't have an interim minister.
Right.
So people are very happy about that.
Yeah. You all have done a lot of work in discernment and really assessing the health of your congregation and what will be best fit for you. And yeah, we're all on COM, right? We're all praying for you. Switching gears a little bit to the last almost 2 years now of COVID, how has that experience been for you, if you'd like to share?
This is what I loved about worship, because we did it by video, YouTube. So I set up a little place of worship, you know, with candles. And,
in your home.
In our home. And so every day I was reminded, this is our place of worship. And it was lovely. And, you know, of course, they invited us for Communion Sunday to get our elements together. And so it was really comfortable sitting there. I connected to the television, so it worked out beautifully. I give our church a lot of credit for all the activity they kept on during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that children and their families were visited, kept in touch with the elderly. They were just amazing. The staff worked so hard and they were so creative. So it was not too bad, Jasmine, going through COVID. Of course, we all had to get used to Zoom meetings, which we're doing today. Thank goodness for Zoom, right?
Right. Yeah, but I appreciate you sharing. I just was wondering because, and I love that image of you, because that was our hope on the leadership side, was that that's what people would do is create space in their home, and that worship didn't have to be in the church building, right? It's not like that is sacred space and your home is not, but that the sacred can come in and be part of it. But at the same time, we're very alone, right? It just is you and your family, if you have one, together, but that's it. And so also being able to be together in a socializing, you just worship differently. So
that's right.
I appreciate, I think a lot of us are hoping, First Birmingham being one of them, doing a hybrid going forward to be able to continue just recognizing this is kind of like we have
absolutely. What we found is there are people who have moved away. Like we had a couple from Colombia, and they still tune in every week.
Wow.
And there are people in Europe who tune in, people, who have moved away back home to Germany and that kind of thing. So they're tuning in. It's so incredible. I just love that aspect of, so we are not giving that up.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think some churches were like Kirk and Birmingham were in a good position going into pandemic, that we had already had some of the equipment. We definitely had to pivot and up our game and put in lots of time and energy. So thank you for thanking your staff for that, because I can imagine. But a lot of churches, they had to create from scratch. Like some of them didn't even have a good website, right? So and it's still a struggle to keep that going and kind of be all things to all people. So, but on the presbytery level, we do have Advent video. I don't know if you know this, but I preached and Dr. Flo and a couple other folks preached a little Advent series. So if churches are just on Zoom still, they can be watching that, and that'll be through the presbytery. So,
See, I think that's very creative, Jasmine. I love that the presbytery is providing materials for churches.
Right.
So
since we are going into the Thanksgiving week, we're filming this. This will air after Thanksgiving, but we're filming before. Do you have any favorite traditions around the holiday that you have done in the past or that you've always done?
Well, growing up in a, what do I want to say? My ethnic background is Lebanese, Lebanon. And so we certainly had different dishes to go along with that turkey. Sometimes instead of or in addition to the regular stuffing, we made a dish called hashwi, which is a mixture of rice and meat and either almonds or pine nuts. And it's absolutely delicious with turkey. My brother has perfected the dish, so he still makes it every Thanksgiving. I gave that up a long time ago. I do a traditional Thanksgiving, but memories of Thanksgiving around our table growing up. My grandmother always had the Thanksgiving dinner, and she had 3 sons and 3 daughters. And my mother and one of my uncles were the only ones who got married. So, and there were only 3 of us kids, grandchildren. So it was a big table loaded with food. but the memories around the table are, what I think of at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We have many blessings, so much to be grateful for over the years. I think of that a lot, of the blessings that I've had in my life. A very happy childhood. It's, being blessed by the churches I've attended. I feel very, very blessed. So, yeah, with my two wonderful kids, it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, that sounds delicious. I need to go look up that recipe and find a good restaurant around here that I can find that at. But I also like you said, I mean, Thanksgiving, it reminds us to be thankful, to be grateful, and to recognize the blessings in our lives. And so to take that opportunity this time of year, but always to be thinking about that. And I get the sense that you're pretty reflective about that. You don't take things for granted.
I don't. I see what's going on in the world around me, and I know I'm blessed. I don't even have to look too far, really. Every community, even here down on this beautiful island of Sanibel and in Fort Myers, there are people with so many needs. They were giving away thousands of turkeys in Lee County to feed the hungry. I mean, it's just amazing what goes on around us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to think of how blessed we are to have the means and to live great lives.
Right. And I think you've talked a lot about your church, your service to your church, so your volunteer hours. And I think this time of year, we do give back. We do our best to be empathetic to those around us and share in what we have and recognize, hopefully everyone's just doing the best they can, right? And so if we can provide that Thanksgiving meal for them when it's, maybe they don't have a lot of heat the next week, they have to bundle up, but they have each other and we all do our best to support each other when we go through hard times.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll keep talking and hopefully maybe more about food or Thanksgiving, whatever comes up. We'll keep on going. So we'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back. I am here with my guest, Sandra Karam, and we've been talking about faith and life and our changing world, which is definitely happening all the time. And Sandra, you and I have been talking a little bit about how the pandemic has been, but I also know that you have had health concerns in the past. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to share that.
Oh, certainly. 4 years ago, actually almost 5 now, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. 4 years ago, I had a stem cell transplant with my own stem cells, happily. And so my immune system is quite compromised. In fact, my immunologist told me recently that it didn't matter that I had my 2 shots of COVID vaccine, because it probably had no effect on me at all. And that was such a blow. So, I always wear masks. I don't around Fox Run because I know there are so many there. Most of them are vaccinated. That's what I was told when we moved in. 96% of the population of Fox Run are vaccinated. And I think that's marvelous. I don't feel like we're completely through it. Like, we go to a UCC church down here, United Church of Christ, because the preacher is fabulous. He's leaving next year. In church today, I wore my mask and a few other people wore masks. But today was the first day they have put the Bibles and hymnals back in the pews. And so for them, this was a turning point. And I'm wondering what's going on back at home too. So
Right. Well, yeah, on the healthcare side of things in Michigan, because my other work is in the Henry Ford system. So I get their internal employee emails, and they have been updating daily and saying like, our numbers are not great. We're not looking forward to this in advance of Thanksgiving. And but everyone kind of is, unlike last year, Thanksgiving, we have vaccines this year. We have boosters even, right? A lot of people I know are getting their boosters. And so,
those of us who wear masks have not had colds, have not had the flu, although I did have my flu shot and I had my booster shot, despite what the doctor says. He says it'll take about, because I have infusions every month to boost my immune system. He said it'll take about a year before that immunity from COVID gets to me. So I'll be wearing masks for quite a while now.
Yeah.
But there's no cure for multiple myeloma. So I'll always have it. Okay. I'm in remission and I'm thankful for every day I have. I feel great. So I think I'm very grateful for every day I have.
What do your infusions look like? How long do they take every month?
They take about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours. It's a gamma globulin infusion. And for some reason, they have to give it to me very slowly. I had a very bad reaction, passed out once when they had a really fast one, trying to do it too quickly. So now they're very careful. So I have to stay there longer, for 4.5 hours.
But you just probably take books, is what I'm guessing, and read and
that's right.
Text people on your phone. I think I've talked to you on the phone sometimes.
Exactly. Or I have a really good nap. So
that works too. That's
good.
That
works. It works. Yeah. I don't mind them. I think the nurses who work in that room, in the infusion room, I think they're heroic. I really do. Working with so many different types of patients like that. But life-giving, they're giving life. Yeah. So.
Well, I just have to acknowledge that I think that's very unusual. Like, people definitely have a spectrum of like how they react to a life-changing diagnosis, and to just be like, well, we all would miss you, right? So I'm glad you've had a good life, but we want you here much, much longer. So.
Thanks, Jasmine. You're such a dear to me. You really are.
Do you have a favorite scripture passage, or one of your favorites?
One of my favorites is, the one from Isaiah. She'll rise up with wings like eagles, run and not be weary, walk and not faint. I love that one. That's going to be, I have to do my...
your funeral planning? That's what I was thinking. I was like, that's a funeral passage.
That's right. That's right. When I mentioned that to our church secretary, Jan Peters, she said, a lot of people, we do have a file of them. So please feel free to plan it and, give us the file.
It is such a gift, I will say, for you and for the family, because it sometimes, I don't know if this would be the case with your family. I think you're more open, but sometimes people are very private about their faith. And so if that is anyone watching this, I encourage you to put a file together, because you know, we all have different ways of approaching faith and God. And so sometimes your family is going to have a different view of like what a funeral should be, or, you know,
Absolutely.
they're not going to necessarily write
Wow.
on the top of their nose, no Isaiah 40, or maybe they will. Maybe they're like, oh yes, of course, Sandra, this is her. She read it every Easter. I don't know, every Thanksgiving you were open it. But having those just kind of, there's so many decisions when a death happens. And so
even
making
choosing
one
the
less
hymns that you want, you know.
Yep.
I mean, if I didn't have How Great Thou Art at my funeral, I'd be very upset. So I really
Well,
do.
you won't care.
That's right.
But I'm sure, yes, of course, How Great Thou Art, we should do for
Yeah. Don't forget that. I have chosen my soloist. So
I'm sure, yeah, your church people will take care of you.
I went up to her and I said, "You've got to sing at my funeral." She said, "What?"
I was at a funeral, not this weekend, but last weekend, and I did the same thing with the soloist. I'm like, by the way, you know, like maybe this person could preach it, and of course you have to sing, like.
Right.
So yeah, I think just being in that world and recognizing that life and death are sacred and are a mystery to us, but it's natural, you know, and it's
right.
part of honoring God in that final beautiful moment. So so yes, do your funeral planning.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share, that just important moments from your life of faith that you think need to be said?
Well, I will share one important time that I'm just amazed. When I was going through my divorce, you know, I wondered, you know, how does my faith affect this? And I'm telling you, I felt that I had a message from God. Seriously, saying you're doing the right thing. I was reading my Bible every day, and I would always open to meaningful passages. It was a message. This is healthy for you. You know, you're doing the right thing. I will never ever forget that, Jasmine, because to me, that's where my faith, when I was in such a depressive state, really brought me through, because I knew that God was pulling me through this. It was amazing, just amazing.
Yeah, that
was a very important, you know, point in my life, and I knew it was the right thing. So, yeah, that is something I'll never forget. There are many times when my faith has, you know, pulled me through. We always think of sort of the bad times. We have to think of the good times too, you know?
Right. But
and that's what I'm grateful for.
I wonder if, especially when you first got diagnosed, I'm sure there was a lot of uncertainty and just kind of low moments. Did that affect your faith journey at all?
Not at all. And you know, both the doctors and Dick were just amazed at my attitude. My son, who is a doctor, he does medical research at Duke University. He looked at the latest report I had, and before the doctor told me that I had multiple myeloma, and he said, "Mom, I just want to warn you that I don't think it's going to be good news." And so he did give me a warning. But when I saw the doctor that day, I said, "Well, okay, so, you know, what do I do?" He gave me a book on multiple myeloma. We were getting on a plane an hour later, 2 hours later, to come down to Sanibel. And I read that book from cover to cover. And then I was comfortable with it. And I said, well, if this is what the Lord has for me, you know, I've had a good life. The doctors were continually amazed. My oncologist downtown at Henry Ford said, when I saw you were on the schedule, she said, it just made my day because I come in happy. Most cancer patients don't.
Right.
But I was always pleasant. So she was really struck by that. And I told her, I think it was my faith that gave me the strength to get through it, really. Yeah. I know it was.
Right. Well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you as always. And we don't always have these types of conversations, even with people we've known for years. So thank you for sharing with me and with our community at Fox Run. We hope you continue to feel at home there. And as you move in, if you need anything, I hope you can ask your neighbors and rely on them in the coming weeks and months as you get settled.
Thank you, Jasmine. This has been a pleasure.
And we're grateful to all of you who've been watching us as well. This has been Kirk Chats. We do these episodes and we'll have another guest next week. I've been Reverend Jasmine Smart, and we hope that you're able to continue to strengthen your faith in the midst of this changing world. I'll see you next week.